A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons for their generous monthly contributions.
Cousin Mark and Ashling.
Karen and Kate.
Stephanie and Courtney.
Lynn and Margie.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contributions sustain our commitment to delivering high-quality content. Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of our dedicated patrons. Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime.
And we're live.
Oof.
Oh boy, do I have shenanigans.
Yay!
That's perfect. We love shenanigans. I almost wish we had been recording trying to figure out Hannah's mic.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll play and probably break his soundboard.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Courtney.
Join us as we delve into true crime, paranormal encounters, and all things spooky.
Grab your flashlight and get ready to wander into the darkness with us.
This is Wicked Wanderings.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Hannah.
And we have a special guest.
Drum roll, please.
Cousin Mark! In the flesh, sort of.
In the virtual flesh. That sounds weird. In the voice sounds better. You're right, Cousin Mark.
In the voice.
In the voice.
Also, I feel like we need to put out there that we are sorry we have not had an episode in, is it 2 or 3 weeks now?
It's been a few weeks, guys. We've had some, I'll say I had some family matters come up in the beginning of January. I'll take ownership of that one personally. So we're back. We did not go anywhere. We didn't
go anywhere.
We didn't stop.
No. All right, Cousin Mark, who is the serial killer you want to talk about? Because I'm very excited for this.
Well, we have Gary Leon Ridgeway, better known as the Green River Killer.
Yeah. And there's messed up, and then there's like Gary Ridgeway messed up. That's what I said to Hannah the other day. I'm like, there's like, yeah, that guy's pretty jacked up. And then there's this guy. And then there's this guy.
Mr. Low IQ and avoided the police for 20 years.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And mommy issues. You got to throw that in the pot.
Always a good mommy issue.
We can get to those.
Lots and lots of mommy issues.
Freud talks a lot about that when he was doing things like this.
Yeah.
He was talking about how boys have, what's the word I'm looking for?
The Oedipus complex.
Yes, the Oedipus complex, which their first love is their mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He talks about that and then how it progresses fast for him.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things he says is that, the husband, the father, needs to establish, dominance. This is my wife. I'm hers. She's not going to anybody else, and you can't have her. But Gary's father wasn't like that. Gary's father was very weak and never showed any, male dominance in the family.
I have to say something because I apologize. I'm interrupting here. I have to bring up, Ted Bundy here.
It's just a matter of time. How many minutes we got? 6 minutes and 41 seconds, Rob, and here's Bundy.
But Cousin Mark
says... That's all right. I'm going to talk about him, too.
Cousin Mark says something really interesting about how mothers are usually the son's first love type of thing. Yeah. And I'm thinking of Ted Bundy and how he thought his grandmother was his mother. And I feel like that's a whole nother...
Oh, it's a whole nother layer of things that fucked him up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, that's also a nurture thing.
Yeah.
Yes, which we talked about.
The nature of nurture, but that's the nurture thing.
Yeah.
Bundy was deceived by women, and then he targeted women.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing with Ridgeway.
100%.
Ridgeway, as we get into him, you're going to notice how resentful he was towards his mother, but also loved her at the same time because that was the first woman he's ever known.
Right.
And Edmund Kemper was the same way. His mother was brutal.
Do you know
brutal to him.
Oh.
Edmund Kemper was the co-ed killer out in out in California.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that one.
That guy, like 6'9", almost 350 pounds.
Oh, big boy.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed to try out for the police department because he was too big.
Interesting.
But anyways, he had, he was too big. So they wouldn't let him join the academy.
You're too big, sir. You can't sit here. You literally don't fit. You can't fit in the cruiser. You can't be a police officer.
I thought bigger the better in the police department, but what do I know?
Police brutality. Just leave it there.
For him, his mother was very domineering, but he also had an IQ of like 160. So he was extremely smart. And he's another one that, we can get into at some point, in a future episode. But Gary Ridgway wasn't very smart, according to IQ levels, and just had major issues with his mother. Growing up, he was a bedwetter.
Oh.
And he did that into his early teens.
Yeah.
And his mother wasn't easy on him. His mother would, degrade him in front of his siblings, and she would physically hand wash him, and in her eyes, scrub the dirty parts.
Oh,
there was a lot of, I think, along with how you were saying, Mark, that the dad was supposed to be domineering. He was supposed to be commanding that respect. I feel like his mom sort of filled that role of being the dominant one in the house, which almost caused a power dynamic too, because I read the same thing. She would, like he was saying, wash the dirty parts, and there was a lot of sexual abuse that happened right there because of that. I mean, that alone is demeaning.
She worked at a tailor store, and she would have to measure the men for suits, and she would come back and tell Gary about how, she would get the men to have an erection, and what they smelled like. And
God,
she gave him all these stories that she went through
to her son,
and that's how he started to learn about sex.
That was what his whole basis of sexual maturity and physical relation to women. And then when you think about it, I mean, physical relation to women and emotional relationship to women, she was physically and emotionally abusive. So there's already this power dynamic of women here and Gary here. So it really doesn't surprise me, especially with the trend of people he goes after. Once you start talking about his killings, it makes 100% sense that that's who he targeted. But once I heard that, I was like, oh, bingo, there we go.
It's just, and people don't normally think of women as special sexual abuses, abusers. That doesn't really, not something that people cross mind. You hear sexual abuse, you're like, oh, what man did it? It's rare that women are doing it, but they do. Yeah, they do it.
I feel like a lot of times to children too. I think a lot of the times that I hear about women as the perpetrator, it's high school boys who are, I mean, they know it's wrong, but they don't think about it that way because they're horned up and they're like, well, she's just a teacher. She's
an older woman likes me, whatever.
Or you hear about it younger boys because they're like, okay, well, no one's going to question that a mom washing her son in the bathtub, especially at that time, was abusive. Right, exactly. You don't know. You're never going to question a mom and how she washes her child. That's just not something that's going to come up.
Well, back then you didn't.
Right. Now you do.
Now in this society, you're definitely going to question that.
Yeah, 100%. You're right.
Yeah. Which is understandable, because some things you shouldn't do to a child. You should wash your child if they're small enough, but, not the way that she was, where she was embarrassing him and making him feel dirty.
A line was crossed.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. But again, that's why I brought up Kemper. Kemper's mother was the same way, because he was so big. She was afraid that he was going to do something to his sisters, so she'd make him sleep in the basement while everybody else was upstairs in the bedroom, so nothing happened.
And you wonder why these men have these power complex over these women.
There's always a reason. There's always a reason.
Well, that's why. I mean, you go back to the nature or nurture thing. When kids are very impressionable, that's the things that they relate to what they see.
100%. And they don't even realize they're doing it. Our young years are so formidable. People don't realize that their beliefs in things, they take on what their family believes.
Yeah. And that's why Ridgway had such a hard time, because in his mind, some of his first sexual fantasies were violent scrubbing. So violent sex comes into that thought process.
Yeah.
So I know me and you, because Mark, we had a conversation earlier this week about nature and nurture. And so remind me if your belief is that most of this is nurture, they might have had a switch nature speaking in their minds, but it was the nurture that really kind of switched it on. Am I right? Is that what your thinking was?
Yes, I think it's just the individual. You know, how the individual perceives what they're looking at. You know, because Bundy was lied to by the two most important women in his life, his mother and his grandmother, but he thought was sister and mother. That's a pretty big lie, you know. And there's other serial killers that have had the same issues. You know, Ridgway wasn't lied to. He was just pushed in a direction of what sex should be.
Right.
So he, you know, that was what formed in his brain at a very young age.
Right. And most of his victims were sex workers.
Because they were vulnerable, easy targets.
Yeah. And he definitely, like, I believe, I can't remember, I've read a couple of different things about him, so I can't remember the exact source on this. I apologize. But I believe he was even directly quoted saying things like just not believing in sex workers, not believing that they were real people and things. He didn't believe that they were worth anything because of what they did. He viewed them as dirty.
He actually told the police, I thought I was doing you a favor.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's 100% the nurture and the behavioral piece in my mind too. I'm with Mark on that one. I think somebody kept telling him he was dirty and he was bad, and now he's looking at these other people who are in his mind dirty and bad, and he's like, they don't deserve to be here, just like how I didn't deserve these other things too. It makes 100% sense that he's like, they're a woman and they're dirty and they're these different things.
Yep. Because when he first started killing, he would choke them from behind. You know, put them in a chokehold. And that was how he killed the first 3 or 4 of them. And just to degrade them more, he would, when he went to throw them in the water, he was stuffing things inside of them.
Yeah.
So was he soliciting them first, or was he just finding them and then going behind? Was it kind of like, hey, I want your services?
He was going and trying to start a business transaction and taking them places. Sometimes in front of his son.
Because that was the easiest way to get him in the vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they willingly get in with you, and no one's paying attention to them.
Right.
Except one that he did pick up, her boyfriend Pimp was behind her and was following, but he got stopped at a light, and Ridgway drove off, and he couldn't find where the car went. So the next day, the father of the woman that Ridgway had and the boyfriend went out driving, and they actually found his truck in the driveway. So they called the police. The police came in, looked at Ridgway, and he was calm as could be. No one's here, blah, blah, blah. And they had no reason to question him any further. So they let him go. They're like, she's not in there. You know, you guys are probably wrong. And, you know, just one of the ways Ridgway got away from being interviewed by police.
Right. And I think also the low intelligence, that you can tell when you're talking to someone, if his intelligence really presented as low as it was on the IQ scale, I'm sure there was a lot of overlooking him simply. Oh, this guy couldn't. He's more in that time. Oh, he's more simple than that. He couldn't get this done. And he was never bringing them to his house. So it was kind of genius when you think about it. He was never bringing anything that was back going to directly relate to him except his car.
Was this 70s? 60s? What years?
The 82.
Oh, 82. Oh, okay. So
82. Yeah. So we're just slowly getting into, you know, the DNA and testing for things, but it's still in its infancy at that point. So they really couldn't, you know, they could do swabs and, you know, check for, you know, secretor, non-secretor and whatnot. But that's the other thing. It's hard to prove with a prostitute who was the last one to have sex with them, because it could have been, you know, if you get semen samples, it could be the fact that, that I did have sex with that person, but I walked away from her.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And at that time there was a crime in it, but it wasn't murder. We weren't talking about
It wasn't murder.
Right.
Just because someone's unfaithful to their wife and they go to a prostitute doesn't make them a murderer.
Right.
And also he could have had sex with her, right? And then she went to the next transaction, and then that guy killed her, right? Like, and just happens to be that they never had sex.
I also believe that he wasn't, it doesn't seem like from the reading that I had done that he often used vaginal sex. It seemed like he was more of like an oral sex customer.
Yeah. Then again, a lot of times it was from behind.
Right.
and that was how he grabbed them. So once he figured out that as he was choking them, the women would scratch him, he would then, once he got scratched, he would actually clip their fingernails.
Oh,
He was
So
tidy.
there was no skin. But after he was getting scratched, he started to use a ligature.
Right.
Just like here, he didn't have to get damaged and then have to explain scratches and whatnot.
but that's like a logical progression for someone. So it boggles my mind that his IQ was as low as it was.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, because the other thing he did was he would go to bus stations and grab hair from the toilets and plant it around. He would grab cigarette butts. So they all thought he smoked, and
Right.
he didn't.
it almost makes me wonder if he was like a crime buff or something. He was like into the
He'd
crime.
get pamphlets from hotels
Yeah.
and leave them to make it look like he was a traveler.
Or a guest from that hotel. And then they'd be down that rabbit hole looking for him. And he's just like at his house, one street down, just chilling.
And Courtney,
Which-
you mentioned a son.
I believe he had a son.
Was he
He
married?
did have a son, Matt. I believe it was Matthew.
He was married once, right? Or was it twice?
3 times.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
I missed
boy.
I missed a wife somewhere in there.
Yeah. The first one he married in 78.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So they divorced in, I'm pretty sure they divorced in 79. I have a whole bunch of notes.
I was going to say the first one wasn't very long. I remember that. It was.
No, it was 2 years.
So Matthew
His
was
first
not
wife
from
was 2
that.
years.
No, I want to say Matthew was from his second.
Yes, I believe so. There was a couple of times that he had his son in the vehicle when he went and picked up a girl.
Yeah. They asked him in an
And he
interview, would
also-
you have killed your son if he saw it? And he said, I don't think so. He didn't say no.
I don't
Oh no,
think
he
so.
said if his son saw something, he would have had to kill him.
Oh,
he did say
my
that.
God.
It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
How old was the kid?
Young. He was not that old.
Oh yeah. The women would ask to see his ID. So he'd pull his ID out, cover his name, and in his wallet would be pictures of his son. So it put the women at ease
Yeah.
because,
Oh, he's a dad.
father's not going to
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah.
And then there were other times where his son wasn't with him, but he had toys in the car. So, that,
Jeez.
Yeah.
but see, that's the thing, he was so smart in evading the police
Yeah.
with all this little things that, you probably never would have thought of.
Yeah.
He got good at it because he wasn't doing just one thing all the time. He really diversified what he was doing along the way. But they always knew he was. They hypothesized before they caught him that he was just one person. And even all the prostitutes at the time that they were able to get data from to write a book. I think it was Anne Rule's book. It was like, I kind of thought about it when I got in the car with somebody, but this is how I pay my bills. And so I didn't think they were I didn't think he was the killer. And I'm like, how do you just go off a hunch when you know this guy's out here killing prostitutes? And you're just like, I got in the car with him, but I didn't think it was him. So it was fine. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
The monster's not going to look like a monster.
Right.
Yeah. So how old was he when he started?
Well, he was born in 49, so late 20s when he started, early 30s.
So he started pretty early.
He did. His thing was I wanted to kill as many prostitutes as I possibly could.
Mission based.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I don't understand why he doesn't get as much publicity as the bigger ones, Dahmer.
It's true because he had a lot of victims. His
Gacy,
victim count was
Bundy.
very high. It was very high.
It was the highest in the U.S. at that time.
Yeah, it was in the
don't think
40s.
anybody's-
40s.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's... Pinkton,
Ugh,
Willie Pinkton,
Pinkton.
gross.
he was active at this time, too.
It's true, yeah.
During Gary
That's
Ridgway's
true,
time.
yeah.
And he was in Vancouver. So they were, really close to each other at the time.
Huh.
And that was one of the things Ridgway did. Ridgway would bring victims to different places to try to throw off the trail.
Ugh, Pinkton. Just
Yeah. His name, just he's one of those people, and I have a weird thing about only few things when it comes to serial killers, but cannibalism is one of my things.
Yeah.
And then Pinkton just gives me the skeeves because I don't know.
How about necrophilia?
I mean, yeah, I don't love the idea of necrophilia, but I don't know why.
Well,
Cannibalism is I can't with cannibalism. That's
we're
too much.
that's one of the things Ridgway did. After he dumped the first 3 or 4 in the water, he stopped using the river and then would dump the bodies off the side of the road and whatnot in what he called clusters.
Yeah. So gross.
He'd use the same dump site. And, there were times where if he didn't have the time to go pick up a prostitute, he'd go back to these dump sites,
visit,
and have sex with the corpse.
Oh my God.
And there was at least one where it was like this person was decomposing. Like, I'm not talking about like she was there from yesterday, like some left out. Like, she was there a long ass time and decomposing, and he was like,
oh my
He said,
God.
I finally had to stop when I had to spread the bugs away.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh God.
Yep.
How's that waffle feeling in your stomach right now?
Just had a waffle before we hopped on here. I'm glad I'm not trying to eat the waffle right now. But yeah. Yeah, he's definitely there. You can see sometimes where you're like, he's so calculated. Maybe there wasn't something wrong. Like maybe he just had bad urges. And then you hear things like that. You're like, nope, there's got to be something disconnected in there because who in their right mind? I mean, humans are sex-driven creatures. But who in their right mind would be like, I don't have time to pick up a prostitute today. I'm just going to go find this dead body with bugs on it.
Wait, I know where I left one.
Wait. Oh, yeah. It was around the corner back over there. No disrespect to the victims. I'm very sorry. That was insensitive. No. But it just, the mentality of him is very like, you think you've got him pegged and then you're like, what the fuck?
Oh, nope.
Like, that's why I said there's messed up and then there's this guy. Like, he's just got so much to him. I would love to have someone do like a full psychoanalysis on all of this.
So is he still alive?
Still alive. I mean, we can still talk to him.
We can still talk to him. Mark's like, get the van. We're going.
Road trip.
Wait, where is he?
I don't know that answer.
He's in Washington.
Oh.
Washington State, I'm guessing.
Washington State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Washington State. Yeah. But again, I'm going to bring up Bundy.
That's number 2, 2618, Rob.
When Bundy was incarcerated in Florida after the Florida killings, the detectives from Washington came down and interviewed Bundy to get perspective on a psychopath serial killer. And he told them, that this guy is going to revisit his clusters. And he said, if you find a fresh kill, you should stake it out and see if he shows back up. He did show back up. They just didn't have the right ones when he did show up. But then once there were too many there, he would pick another spot and go to another one. So,
well, Bundy knew because Bundy favored dumping sites too.
He did.
Bundy knew because he had his own favored spots. So I'm sure and it's funny too, because that's one of those things where I can imagine as an investigator or a police officer, you're like, okay, I'm getting this information and let's consider the source of who it's coming from. But also like they're kind of an expert in their field. Like if you've got someone behind bars, like, yes, they're a criminal. Yes, what they do is wrong. Yes, they might need some kind of psychotic medication and things. But they also aren't they are an expert in their field. So why would you not take their opinion and at least go try? What do they have to gain or lose from being in there?
Yeah.
Like
he knew he was dead.
Somebody that thinks that way.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean.
Because a normal brain doesn't think that way.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. You just keep coming up with short straws at that point.
Yeah. Or they do think that way, but they were raised correctly and they go, yeah, this is wrong. Let's not do that.
Right. If I do that, I'll end up behind bars and I don't look good in orange.
So was the police actually interested at first in these women that were dying because of their profession? Because I know with Picton, they weren't really interested at first. They're like, all right, another prostitute we found. Okay, like, let's move on. Were they actually interested in...
I didn't get the impression that the police were dismissive of them.
It started out real slow. Because they didn't, like any case, they didn't think they had a serial killer on their hands.
Right.
They were just like, a prostitute went missing. That's not unheard of.
Yes.
She could have run away. She could have started a new life. All that same stuff.
And that's the thing with prostitutes. They're adults. They can go off the grid for as long as they want. It doesn't mean they're dead.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're missing. They could have just went south.
And 3/4 of the time, they're not using their real identity, which makes it even harder because the people who are, even the pimp might be reporting, okay, Hannah is missing, but like, how do we know Hannah is her real name? She could be using an alias.
Right. And then you got the human trafficking piece too, where their bodies can be moved wherever they want because to pimps and everybody else, they're a piece of property.
And free will. Like I could just be like, you know what, I'm all done with this. I'm just going to vanish. Right. So that's always a hard part too, that I wonder when we're listening to these cases where if it's a child who goes missing, the parents have the right to be able to open the case. However, when it's an adult and they're like, well, there's no foul play, that person is allowed to just disappear.
Right.
You and I are both allowed to just say, you know what, fuck this place, I'm out, and just get up and leave our life. And we're free roaming adults. We're allowed to do that.
Right.
But we lose so much valuable time because of that human right, which is both a blessing and kind of a curse, I guess.
Especially when you have people that, like, I feel like I know you, right? If me and Britton were to go to the police, be like, no, you understand, like, Courtney had a business here. She has X, Y, and Z, or she's not going to go anywhere. And they're like, well, she's an adult. Like,
you know my patterns, but they still wouldn't take your word for it.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but people will be like, oh, well, maybe the person just doesn't want to talk to you. And you're like, I mean, yeah, I guess, but it's a tough spot.
Yep.
But that happens in every single case.
Yeah. Yep.
I listened to one podcast called The Teacher's Pet, and the mother of two just disappeared. And everybody there said, there's no way this woman's leaving her two kids. Her two kids were her life.
Right.
There's no way.
And the police are like, what you want me to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's sad because I see both sides of that. I see like a human adult has the right to just pick up and leave. And we don't always know everything about someone just because we think we do. And I understand that. But I also feel like how many cases could we solve if we didn't do that?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if I ever go, quote unquote, missing and I'm just like pissed at all y'all and someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, your friends are really concerned for you. I'm going to be like, first of all, I'm fine, and tell them I said fuck themselves. Like, but also thank them for caring about me. Like, I'm going to call Hannah and be like, I hate you. We really have to do that. But at the same time, I would be like, okay, but Hannah cares about me. She was worried.
Yeah.
I'll always be worried.
Oh. Yeah, she stalks my location constantly. She's like, hey, I see that it's 6 p.m. Why are you in East Hartford?
Why are you not home yet?
Why aren't you home? When are you coming home?
I don't know if anyone has your location, Mark, but
A couple do, but they don't use it.
I feel like I always like say that on here because I'm like, don't target me. People know where I am.
I know where you are.
I got a lot of people know where I am.
I have Mom and Dad's location on my phone. This way here, if something happens, I know where I can find them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I usually just take the phones and just add the location because everyone's like, tech support, I need help. And I'm like, ooh, there you are. You're at the Walmart. I got you.
Phone. I got to look at something.
They never know. They'll never notice.
Yeah. But anyways, Gary did serve in the Navy.
Oh,
and,
he was military?
The first time, and he saw action in Vietnam, and also saw action in the Philippines with the prostitutes there.
Contributing factors.
He proceeded to pick up.
Check.
He proceeded to pick up STDs.
Oh.
While he was married to his first wife.
Oh.
You can see why that one didn't last long.
There's another issue with Ridgway being mad at women, for getting STDs.
Yeah.
But he never killed anyone over there.
That we're aware of.
Not in a military aspect.
Okay.
So.
Oh, okay.
Like action.
Yeah.
He didn't kill anybody as in battle, but we don't know if he did or not, but he didn't kill any of the prostitutes that he was with over there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Every time I hear Vietnam, I just want to go, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right? What movie is that again?
I have no idea.
No, that was Good Morning Vietnam.
Yes.
With, Robin Williams.
Vietnam. That's all I was sorry. Just every time I want to say that. But anyways,
it was Good Morning Vietnam.
I want to say The Office also does that at one point.
They do?
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
Ridgway's first wife, while he was overseas, was cheating on him over here because
good for her.
By herself.
In hindsight, good choice, buddy.
Yeah.
Pat the back
good
on that
for
one.
her on that one.
But again, it's just another thing that solidifies his
evilness in women.
Anger towards women.
And he never hurt any of his wives, correct?
No, I believe it was his second wife. They went out somewhere and he snuck around the car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember
and
that.
Put her in a chokehold.
Oh, the first wife?
Yeah.
The second wife.
Second wife.
I think it was the second wife.
Didn't he try to say, like, that wasn't me, there was a random man here?
Exactly.
He tried to gaslight her.
Of the car. He ran around the other side of the car and she's,
choked out.
He let her go and he got on the other side. She was screaming, so he ran around the other.
He pretended he wasn't there.
Was this the one that
it was him?
Right.
But he kept denying it.
Was she the one that produced the child?
Yeah, I believe so.
The second one, okay.
I believe that was the mother of his child. Yeah. I wonder if I can look.
That was the thing. All of his ex-wives and ex-girlfriends said he always wanted sex all the time, and he wanted a lot of it outdoors.
Yes.
Outdoors.
He liked it outdoors. But in 73, when he,
I showed a picture. I don't know if you can see it. Lovely
Oh, yeah.
Gary.
At least Ted Bundy was a
good
good-looking
old
guy.
Gare Bear.
Oh, so is he on death row or no?
No.
No.
He did a plea bargain
Ah.
and admitted to all of them, so he wouldn't get the death penalty.
And it looks like his marriages were Claudia Craig Barrows, 1970 to 1972, then Marsha Laureen Brown, 1973 to 1981, and finally Judith Lorraine Lynch, 1988 to 2002.
Yes. He was still with Judith when he was arrested.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah, because 2002 is far after he was.
Well, he was arrested in the end of 2001. That was when they finally caught him.
He's 75.
His killings went down after he married Judith because Judith loved him and showed him the love, unlike the other two, where the first one cheated on him, and then Marsha, his second wife, ended up having gastric bypass.
Yes.
So she got herself skinny, and he was afraid that she was going to cheat on him.
Yeah, he was like resentful that other men were going to look at her because he didn't want her, I think, in his mind to be dirty. Like, now other men are going to want you. They're going to think about you impurely. And
so the third wife is like kinks be kinks and is like, I'll have sex with you outside in the backyard.
And they all commented on that. And we're like, yeah, he always wanted to have sex like multiple times a day was something I remember them saying. And he always wanted to have sex violently and outside. Like he could never just be like, oh, like a regular couple. Like, let's have like lazy mornings. Like he needed it to be like outside and violent and like multiple times a day.
Well, when you go back to it, that is normal for him.
That's true. Yeah. Because of the violence from his mom.
In his brain, that is normal.
So did he like it when they were still? Because I know some killers are like, I need you to be completely still, like a corpse.
Bundy.
Yeah, that's true.
Bundy liked them acting dead.
Gross.
But again,
it's not even noon yet. We're like, yeah, necrophilia.
And I will say, so I'm looking at a huge long list of all of his victims, which is super sad. And honestly, my heart breaks looking at this list. Putting names to it really just brings it home.
Makes it worse, yeah.
But I'm looking at most of the ages. And as
his
of
youngest
16,
was 13.
15, the oldest I've seen so far is 31. There's only been one person 30 or over.
Way down the bottom, you're going to have, it's either 36
Patricia.
or 38.
So there was 3 that were over 30 and everybody else was mid-20s and below. Yeah. You're right, because Marta Reeves was 36 and Patricia Ann Yellow Robe was 38.
Yeah. But he also had one that he killed that he knew, and she was a waitress.
Which is interesting.
She wasn't a prostitute.
Doesn't fit, unless he like maybe had fantasized about her or he had seen something.
He made a mistake. He made a mistake. And he admits to that. And after he killed her, he laid down next to her and cuddled her and cried because he knew he screwed up.
But see, that's where like the behaviorist in me is so fascinated because these mission-based serial killers really believe in their mission to the core. They believe what they're doing is for a greater purpose. They do believe it's right because you can't tell me that's a person who doesn't feel empathy and who doesn't feel sorry. He did. In our morals, we should have felt bad the whole time. But he got so upset because he made a mistake that he does understand empathy and he does understand how to feel for somebody else. So it's like, that's where it's fascinating to me on the emotion side. Emotionally, like he does know. Yeah. He just believed in his mission more than anything else.
Well, when he married his second wife, Marsha, he became very religious.
Oh.
He became very religious. He was being the family man, going to church, crying during sermons.
Part of me wants to go mania? Question mark? Because like hyper religiousness is like a huge thing in mania. It makes me wonder about like a BPD or a bipolar.
Oh, that was Dennis Rader, BTK. He was the head guy at the church that he was part of.
Oh, doesn't that make your skin crawl? There's something about being in a religious power of position and also being a serial killer that just makes all those times I was forced to go to catechism. I'm like, guys, you don't know how close I was to death.
Dude, we still need to do a whole episode on religious trauma because, because Mark, I don't know if he knows about me, but I grew up extremely religious. So my private school was actually attached to the church that I went to. So I was there 6 days a week, whether it was for school or church on Sunday. I was there every day except Saturday. And come to find out, one of the youth pastors that was part of coaching the volleyball team, he was doing Bible classes with us. Like, he was there on Sundays for classes. He moved to Florida for this great principal job at this private Christian school. He gets arrested for sexually abusing children. And that man was like in my life. Like, and my mom actually had to come to us and be like, did he do anything to you guys like that I don't know about? Like, it's disgusting to me. Like, these people
are everywhere.
Yeah.
But then that goes with nature.
Yeah.
This guy is surrounded by kids 10 hours a day.
The opportunity is there.
Week.
Yeah.
You know,
the opportunity base.
That's the opportunity. And if you can be a good judge of character, you can figure out the weak ones and the strong ones. And then you exploit them.
Or even not if you're a good judge of character. I mean, some of these people are in guidance counselor positions. These kids are being forced to come and tell you all the things that are going wrong with them. You don't even have to be good at reading kids. You're literally like, oh, this kid just came in and told me he gets beaten at home. If I make him feel special and give him some things, it's so hard because children are so impressionable. Like you said earlier, it is so easy to find what they want. Behaviorists, you talk about turning the behavior on and turning it off. You know how to reinforce these kids, and it really is not a skill that everybody should have. It's used the wrong way. It's very gross.
And just think about like Danny Croto, like when I did 2 episodes over a year ago at this point.
That was a rough one.
His family was like, oh, a Catholic priest, there can be nothing wrong. Danny, you need to be with this priest more. He can help shape you into a wonderful man.
Forced it on him.
And to the point where like he got picked up by this priest at school and he was crying and his friends remember, he's like, I don't want to go with him. But like, yeah, the parents were like, no, it's a priest. It's a man of God. They would never do anything to my child. And that fucking priest murdered him.
And I think, fortunately, as a society, we're coming away from like I think and obviously for what I do for work, I work with a lot of families. I work with a lot of parents. I feel like I see a lot more parents who are like, yeah, no, if I can't go do that because I have to be home with my kid. And someone will say like, oh, why don't you get a babysitter? And I've seen moms be like, because I don't trust anybody with my kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to trust a single person. Like people will say, well, what about your sister? Well, you know what? I don't trust her. And just because she's my sister doesn't mean I should trust her to watch my kids. That's a very personal thing. I like that we're coming around to the idea of like, we're not just going to pay that random guy down the street to hang out with our kids anymore. That's kind of weird when you think about it.
Like Billy Bob next door is a really nice guy when he mows his lawn. Like that doesn't mean shit.
Exactly.
Well, that was the babysitter.
Tony Costa.
Out on the Cape.
Yeah. I did an episode on him. Yeah.
They would always hang around with him out on the Cape, go to the dump, this and that. And then the next thing you know, he's murdering people from the hotel that he was working at.
But he didn't. The good thing about Tony, the thing about Tony is he had a very specific type of, he murdered women he was in relationships with or women who are around a certain age. So the kids were probably always safe with Tony because I really don't believe after, I've read like, I think 3 books on him now. I really don't get the impression that he ever would have, like, I do believe he, as far as taking care of children was, I do believe he was a good guy. He enjoyed spending time with them. He took them to do things. Maybe he shouldn't have taken them to a place where he was growing his marijuana and burying his bodies, but I think those girls were always safe with him, to be honest.
Yeah, he was bought him for ice cream. Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't try to kill their mom, though, because she fit the profile. She fit the profile hard.
But see, that's the thing with children. And like you said, Hannah, that's a priest. Go with them. The priest is when children are saying something, the parents just brush it off as,
they're lying. They're just kids.
Adult. Yeah, you're looking for attention.
The same thing with cops.
Yep.
Some cops abuse their authority and some don't, but it's like, how do you differentiate?
You don't. Right. That's the problem.
So you can't tell which adult is being mean to the child because you're going to believe the adult before you believe the child.
Right.
Which is sad in society, but anyways.
Oh, man.
We're on a tangent.
That's okay.
That was one of the other things that I had found when I was doing my research for him. I never knew how they got fingerprints off of a body that was submerged in water for so long.
Right. And how would they be reliable, I guess is the word.
Oh, yeah. This is interesting.
What the coroners would do was they would cut the wrist and pull the skin off like a glove.
Ugh.
And they'd wear it, right?
And wear it.
So cool.
To get the fingerprints because that was the easiest way to firm the skin up after it's been waterlogged. So that they could get a viable print.
But that's so
And that was-
interesting.
I don't know what it is about dismembering bodies that makes my body feel uncomfortable.
Well, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Something
I'm
about
just
wearing
weird.
people's skin and cannibalism. There's just something about those
You're not
two.
wearing it for fun.
But they're still wearing it. They're like, let me
Yeah,
put it
you're
on. You
still
said like
putting someone's
gloves.
skin
That
on.
makes me uncomfortable.
You at least have a rubber glove on in between.
I would hope so. You got to use some kind of protection there. That's
No glove, no love.
exactly what I was going to say, Mark. I was like, I'm going to keep it clean. I don't know how cool Mark is with that.
Oh
I'm gonna
no,
keep it clean.
Mark's cool with that.
No
Mark is
glove, no
cool with
love.
that. You should be his
you
brother,
can't.
Matt.
You can't offend me.
I think we should make T-shirts that say "No glove, no love" with a cousin Mark emblem on it, and it has just like a skin hand. I'm gonna ask Rob if he can create one. It's like the Addams Family hand,
Yes,
but it says
same.
"No glove, no love."
That's it.
Cousin Mark dash cousin Mark. Today's date, what? 2/2/25.
I love it. Let's do it.
One of the things Gary Ridgway talked about was having a polygraph that he ended up passing. So they looked at Ridgway and they asked him, they said, how did you pass the polygraph? He says, and I quote,
And here I am quoting.
he says, well, I just sat there and I relaxed and I answered their questions.
Yeah, well, because it does go off of, I think,
quote.
like your pulse and things like that. Like,
Yeah,
if,
your heart rate.
when you're lying to
Heart
somebody, you're like, when we were lying to Rob about a surprise party, he's like, we're going to go do this. And we're like, okay. Like,
Yeah, and your heart starts to...
Yeah.
We were
starts to
sweating
go
like.
yeah. But if you go
That's
into
the
it and you're like,
anxiety.
or take a Xanax, I
But
could
this
pass a
is-
polygraph
but-
that way.
But this is why polygraphs aren't allowed in court cases.
Right.
Because they don't really tell you
Because
anything.
You can manipulate them.
Yeah. It's interesting also,
Yeah.
though, he was not intelligent according to his IQ score, but yet he was intelligent enough to fake the polygraph.
The psychopaths are like that.
Yeah. Or sociopaths, both of them.
But once they started to get into DNA and everything, they had an article of clothing from the first murder victim that they had saved. That piece of clothing that they had spray paint particles on it.
He was a painter.
But back then they couldn't analyze it and figure out what it was. They could just see little tiny red spots. So now fast forward to DNA processes, they were able to figure out that it was spray paint for vehicles. And they were able to narrow it down because Ridgway worked at the Kenworth Trucking Company, spray painting the new vehicles. Which was one of the ways that they caught him because of having it on his clothes and passing it off as touch DNA. So they were able to
They had to get sharp with his
analyze that.
case.
Yeah.
And
They
they
had to get
ended up picking him up at work. That was where they grabbed him.
Hard to say you don't work there when you're there, huh?
Yeah. And it was funny because he was so strange that his co-workers were starting to name him the Green River Killer. They just had,
Imagine the
they just
irony.
they were trying to goof on him, not knowing that it was really him.
Yeah, not knowing how close to death they were for
God.
saying that to a man who killed what? He was actually 49, I think. It was 48, but a Jane Doe, so 49, I think.
Yeah, in 2010, they found another victim that they attributed to him. So
Yeah.
he ended up
He's got
admitting to that one
48
too.
life counts, life sentences. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And-
he'll be out soon.
It's like 1,000 years or something like that.
Yeah. But he had to plead guilty to all of them
Right.
to avoid the
The death penalty. But like, why would you want to stay alive to like? It makes me wonder how much more there is for them to find
I mean,
out.
can he still? Does he have parole, or is that without parole?
That's without
Oh
parole.
no,
Okay.
no.
He did not get parole.
He's serving 49 life sentences. So there's no parole.
There's
in
no
him.
good behavior situation here. There is no star chart
No.
for Gary Ridgway. All right, I'm going to stop our recording here.
Wait, should we say goodbye?
Oh, I'm
To
not
Cousin
going to
Mark?
stop our recording here.
I feel like we should say goodbye to me. You spent like 2.5 hours on here with
We were
us.
going to say goodbye to him. I wasn't just going to press log off on him. I was just going to hit stop recording.
But shouldn't we say goodbye to him though on air?
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead, Hannah. Lead us on your
Okay.
goodbye. Should we sing him a song?
Goodbye, so long. Avida say adieu.
I don't know the words to this
Adieu,
one.
adieu to you.
Okay, it's weird. This is getting a really weird goodbye. Welcome to us. We don't know how to start or end a conversation.
Bye.
Thank you, Cousin Mark. We appreciate you coming on and doing your thing, and you're obviously welcome back whenever you have more
Yes.
things you want to yap about.
Yes. Always.
All right, that's awesome. I would love to be back. You guys just let me know and we'll figure out a time and we'll banter.
Sounds perfect. Banter. It's what we
And
do
don't
best.
forget, we have a group chat, so we need to hear from you.
Cousin Mark and the ladies.
Yeah,
Of course.
All right, now I'm going to press.
Bye, Wanderers.
Thanks for listening today. Wicked Wanderings is hosted by me, Hannah.
And co-hosted by me, Courtney.
And it's produced by Rob Fitzpatrick.
Music by Sasha M.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave a rating and review, and be sure to follow on all socials. You can find the links down in the show notes. If you're looking for some really cozy t-shirts or hoodies, head over to the merch store. Thank you for being a part of the Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate every one of you. Stay curious, keep exploring,
and always remember to keep on wandering.
Attention, cryptid enthusiasts and Bigfoot believers. Unleash your inner legend with our brand new Bigfoot t-shirt, now available just $19.95 plus shipping. This tee is everything you've ever wanted, soft, lightweight, and designed with the perfect amount of stretch for maximum comfort. Made from 100% combed and ring-spun cotton, it's pre-shrunk to keep its flattering fit and durable enough to withstand your wildest adventures. With its high-quality construction and iconic design, this shirt is a must-have for anyone who's ready to join the hunt in style. Sizes are available for everyone, so don't wait to grab yours today. Head to the link in the show notes to snag your new favorite shirt and rep your Bigfoot pride wherever you go.